All right, so today we're diving into something pretty intense.
Intense is a good word for it.
Yeah, you shared Dostoevsky's notes from Underground with us, and just skimming through it,
It's heavy.
it's heavy.
Definitely heavy.
So we're going to be exploring Dostoevsky's critique of utopianism today.
Okay.
And grapple with this idea that maybe achieving a perfect world
Right.
isn't what humans actually want.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating concept. And what's interesting here is that
Yeah,
Dostoevsky was writing this in 19th century Russia,
right.
a time when utopian ideals were gaining a lot of traction.
Mm-hmm.
You had thinkers and revolutionaries envisioning a future where suffering and want were completely eliminated.
Wow.
But Dostoevsky wasn't buying it.
Interesting.
He throws us right into the deep end with this character, the underground man,
Yes.
to explore the dark side of human nature.
Yeah, this underground man is something else.
He is.
He's a bitter, resentful bureaucrat who seems to almost relish in inflicting misery on others. Yet he's acutely self-aware.
Yeah.
He's confessing all of this to us,
Right.
laying bare his own twisted psychology.
It's wild.
What do you make of this character?
He's a paradox to me.
Yeah.
This self-awareness is key to understanding Dostoevsky's critique.
Okay.
The underground man sees the flaws in himself and by extension in humanity as a whole. Dostoevsky uses him to challenge the very notion of rationality.
Okay.
He even writes, in short, one may say anything about the history of the world, anything that might enter the most disordered imagination. The only thing one can't say is that it's rational. The very word sticks in one's throat.
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
What does Dostoevsky even mean by rationality here?
Right.
It seems like he's getting at something deeper than just logic and reason.
Exactly. For Dostoevsky, rationality is often associated with this idea of a perfectly ordered, predictable world,
Okay.
the kind of world that utopian thinkers were striving for.
Right.
But Dostoevsky suggests that human beings aren't just rational creatures. We're driven by emotions, by desires, by this inherent need for freedom
Right.
that often defies logic.
So even if we could achieve this utopia,
Yeah.
this perfectly rational society where all our needs are met,
Right.
Dostoevsky is saying we probably still find a way to mess it up.
That's the core of his argument.
Right.
Think about the way the underground man treats the woman he offers to help.
Okay.
He extends this offer of salvation, knowing he can't deliver, and then turns around and humiliates her.
Wow.
It's brutal,
Yeah.
but it highlights this self-destructive impulse within us.
So it's like, even if we had everything we could ever want,
Yeah.
we'd still find a way to be miserable.
That brings us to another critical point.
Okay.
Dostoevsky questions whether eliminating suffering and want would actually make us happier.
Really?
You see this in that powerful image he uses. Shower upon him every earthly blessing, drown him in the sea of happiness, so that nothing but bubbles of bliss can be seen on the surface.
Wow.
What if, as Dostoevsky suggests, material abundance doesn't actually lead to genuine satisfaction?
It's a thought-provoking idea, for sure.
It is.
It's like he's saying there's something about the human condition that requires a certain amount of struggle, of dissatisfaction, to give our lives meaning.
Precisely. He even goes as far as comparing humans to piano keys,
Oh, wow.
suggesting we're inherently predictable and controlled by the laws of nature.
And of course, the underground man completely rebels against this idea.
He embodies that rebellion.
Yeah.
He refuses to be a piano key, even if it means choosing chaos and suffering
Right.
over a perfectly ordered existence.
Wow.
Remember that line? Even then, he would not become reasonable, but would purposely do something perverse out of ingratitude to gain his point.
Yes.
Dostoevsky is suggesting that we crave freedom, even if it means acting against our own rational self-interest.
That's incredible. So if we follow this line of thinking, are we inherently flawed, doomed to make a mess of things, even when presented with a seemingly perfect situation?
It's not about being flawed, necessarily. It's more about recognizing the inherent complexity of human nature.
Right.
What makes Dostoevsky so brilliant is that he's grappling with these questions decades before thinkers like Nietzsche,
Yeah.
who are known for these ideas.
Yeah.
He's already exploring the potential dangers of utopianism, this idea that trying to engineer happiness might actually lead to a kind of spiritual emptiness.
And this was all before things like the Soviet experiment,
Right.
which really did try to create this perfectly ordered society.
Exactly.
And well, we know how that turned out.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we're still falling into the same traps today, always striving for perfection,
Right.
without really considering the messy, unpredictable nature of humans.
It's a question worth pondering, isn't it? Dostoevsky challenges us to think deeply about what we're actually creating when we strive for this absolute perfection.
Yeah.
What if in our quest to eliminate all suffering,
Right.
we accidentally eliminate the very things that make life meaningful?
It's almost like the journey is more important than the destination. The striving, the struggling, even the failing, those are all part of what makes us human.
That's a really insightful way to put it.
Yeah.
Dostoevsky seems to be suggesting that without those elements, we risk becoming passive and complacent,
Okay.
almost like cogs in a machine,
Right.
which of course is exactly what the underground man is rebelling against.
Yeah.
He'd rather embrace chaos and suffering than become a piano key in a perfectly ordered world.
So then what's the alternative?
Right.
Is Dostoevsky suggesting we're all just doomed to be miserable?
Not necessarily. Remember, he's not offering easy answers here.
Right.
He's pushing us to think more critically about what it means to live a meaningful life.
Okay.
He's questioning our assumptions about happiness, about progress, about the very nature of desire itself.
I think I'm starting to understand.
Yeah.
It's not that suffering is inherently good or necessary,
Right.
but rather that it's an unavoidable part of the human experience.
Yes.
And instead of trying to eliminate it entirely, maybe the key is to find meaning and purpose within that struggle.
Exactly. Dostoevsky is suggesting that true fulfillment doesn't come from achieving some state of perfect bliss,
Okay.
but rather from grappling with the challenges and contradictions of existence.
Which, when you think about it, is a lot more realistic.
It is.
Life is messy, it's unpredictable, and it's often painful.
Yeah.
But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what makes it interesting.
That's the beauty of Dostoevsky, isn't it?
Yeah.
He doesn't give us a blueprint for a perfect world.
Right.
Instead, he holds up a mirror, forcing us to confront our own complexities and contradictions.
Yeah.
He's essentially saying, hey, you're a complicated, messy creature now. Go figure out what to do with that.
Well, I can tell you my head is spinning a little bit trying to process all of this.
Yeah.
It's intense stuff, but it's also incredibly thought-provoking.
And we're not done yet. There's still so much more to unpack here.
Okay, so we've really gotten deep into Dostoevsky's notes from Underground, explored the complexities of the underground man, and grappled with his critique of utopianism.
We have.
So what does this all mean for us? What can we take away from this deep dive?
Well, I think one of the key takeaways is that Dostoevsky forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about ourselves,
Okay.
the parts of us we'd rather ignore. He's showing us that human nature is a lot more complicated, a lot messier than we might like to admit.
It's like he's saying, hey, you're not always rational.
Right.
You're driven by these deep-seated desires and emotions that don't always make sense.
Exactly. And those emotions, they're not inherently bad. In fact, they might be the very things that make us human,
Okay.
the things that give our lives meaning and purpose.
Even if those desires sometimes lead us to make, well, less than ideal choices, like the underground man, for example. He seems to revel in his own misery,
Right.
even when presented with opportunities for happiness.
That's the paradox, isn't it? Dostoevsky is suggesting that maybe true happiness, true fulfillment doesn't come from achieving some state of perfect bliss.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes from embracing the struggle, the contradictions, the inherent messiness of being human.
So it's not about eliminating suffering
Right.
or achieving some kind of utopia. It's about finding meaning and purpose within the imperfections of our existence.
I think that's a powerful way to put it. Dostoevsky isn't giving us a roadmap to a perfect world. Instead, he's giving us the tools to navigate the complexities of the world we actually live in.
And these ideas, these questions about utopia, about human desire, about the search for meaning, they're just as relevant today
Absolutely.
as they were in Dostoevsky's time.
Perhaps even more so, we live in a world obsessed with optimization,
Yeah.
with efficiency, with this relentless pursuit of happiness.
Right.
And yet so many of us still feel this sense of emptiness, this longing for something more.
Which is exactly what Dostoevsky was warning us about all those years ago.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, hey, maybe the things that make you uncomfortable, the things you try to avoid, those are the very things that can lead you to a richer, more meaningful life.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
To embrace the struggle, to find beauty in the imperfections,
Right.
to accept that just maybe there's no such thing as a perfect world, a perfect life.
Well, after this deep dive, I don't know about you, but I'm certainly feeling a little challenged and inspired.
As you should be, Dostoevsky's work is meant to provoke, to make us think, to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world around us.
If you're listening to this and you're feeling a little shaken up, a little unsure, that's a good thing.
It is.
It means Dostoevsky's ideas are getting under your skin, making you think differently.
And who knows, maybe in grappling with those uncomfortable truths,
Yeah.
you might just discover something profound about what it truly means to be human.
So if this deep dive has piqued your interest, I highly recommend checking out Notes from Underground for yourself.
It's a good one.
It's a challenging read, but it's a rewarding one. And here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about the world we're creating today with all of its technological advancements, its focus on progress and efficiency. Are we getting any closer to that utopian ideal? Or are we, as Dostoevsky suggests, creating a different kind of emptiness, a world where everything is perfect on the surface but lacking in true meaning and depth? That's something to ponder, isn't it? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.